If you have a magic wand, what's one thing you could do to make gathering feedback dramatically easier?
For me, the one element would be being able to watch the person use the tool, right, directly, like actually looking at their eyeballs, looking at their face. Because the thing is, I firmly believe that people have an emotional response to something, and then they think of a rational reason why they're having that emotional response.
Jason, to that point, I feel like AI or not AI, it's the same. The intent, building the right thing is the same in any business. Right. I guess with AI, if you had the wrong intent, it shows you a mistake, your failure faster. I guess in the startup world, we wanted to fail fast.
I think it's fast in prototyping, but the fundamental thing, and kind of going back to your point about like how the product management space changes, it is changing, like I said, from a tooling perspective, but I think like the core problems remain, which is what's the intent of the thing we're building? And this is, if we look at UX specifically in that area, that's a commonality because you can have conflicting goals and conflicting, results that are expected from the path you're going on.
Welcome to UX Stories. I'm your host, Lihong Hicken. I've spent my career obsessed with how we understand what users actually think. When Chris and I helped scale usertesting.com from zero to IPO, we thought we had it figured out, but AI has moved the goalpost. Then the speed of building is now 10x faster than speed of listening. So now that's exactly why we built Dayset. I'm here to talk to people navigating the gap. Today, I'm joined by Jason Kirby, Global Head of Product Engineering and Magic Memories. Jason, you being at the forefront of all these things, 2007, 19 years, you've been through the manual world of building product and the AI world of building product. I think me and my audience want to know who you are as a product builder. Tell me kind of, who you are and then what defines you as a product builder.
Hey, you bet. So, I'm Jason Kirby, and I run product engineering and the business intelligence team for Magic Memories. Been in the space for 20 to 25 years, started as a technologist, then did sales and marketing before finding a home in product management 20-some years ago. And my history primarily is building a lot of 1.0 products, really moving companies into either adjacent or new markets and building new products custom built for either a different customer segment within that same market or going to an adjacent market with a different requirement set entirely. And then, with the latest one with Magic, it's retail tourism photography. So we've been on the forefront with leveraging a lot of AI for computer visuals, but then also leveraging it for, say, rostering and for a lot of automation. And also we service both B2B and B2C customers.
Pretty well around, right? Building all kinds of stuff. I think, Jason, look back at the last year. What is the hardest thing you've had to unlearn as a product builder? Because I feel like the job description is kind of changing every single week.
To a degree, I would say that I think building products remains the same, but the methodologies are different. So I think it's easier to go faster, but not necessarily always to be more accurate with leveraging AI. So it can kind of augment and help you go down a certain path, but there's a bit of quality assurance and checking for, are we building the right thing? Is it actually hitting the goal? That really still needs a bit of oversight and overview from a human. So again, while the tools can help you there, that you can't be necessarily hands-free from what I've seen so far. And so a lot of the elements from, I would say, learning is kind of knowing where AI is strong and where it's weak at and kind of getting those experiences rather than kind of, if you kind of just follow the pack effectively right, then you can kind of end up on a wrong path and not quite get the same results.
Yeah, that's interesting. Keep going. Yeah, I like that. I like where you're heading to. A lot of story unpack here. I want to know more about that.
Oh, sure. Well, it's across a couple different dimensions, depends on what you're wanting. So a lot of the tools are good at generalizing, right? So AI is a generalizing tool and it's superb in that area. The challenges is this: if you have very specific use cases or you have a very specific target to hit, the application of AI can, again, help, but that might not necessarily be the correct, full get you there. It might get you only 80% of the way there. So. But but there's a lot of nuance around that front. Again, with this maybe more in the visual space, but we don't quite have agentic models in AI that are the same quality assurance way that you do with text and language for AI models. So for example, like if I'm drawing something, did it draw it correctly? AI is a bit weaker on the quality assurance point. So currently you can still create visuals, which are awesome, but is it on brand? Is it on point? Is it, I think that target, that quality assurance part is still fairly human driven and not quite agentic or AI driven in that front yet. It's coming, it'll be there shortly, but it's a bit lagging, a bit behind from text and language comparatively.
Interesting. It's interesting you mentioned AI, and it's interesting you mentioned the speed. It lead me thinking about, thinking about something, the rise of vibe coding. I'm
Mm.
sure your team is thinking about this.
Yeah.
These days, we can build prototypes in minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking this, like, does that speed actually make you feel like you're free to innovate? Or does it make you feel like you're just running faster on a treadmill that feel like going nowhere?
I think it can it's fast in prototyping, but the fundamental thing, and kind of going back to your point about like how the product management space changes, it is changing, like I said, from a tooling perspective. But I think like the core problems remain, which is what's the intent of the thing we're building. And this
Mm-hmm.
is, if we look at UX specifically in that area, that's a commonality because you can have conflicting goals and conflicting, results that are expected from a path you're going on. So, for example, like a general kind of e-commerce, site, for example, or even just your corporate will have a lot of intents from multiple different teams. Someone will see it as a blank canvas for advertising, others that it's for conversions and it's click-throughs, others that it's there. And divining that intent or being true to that intent is the area that, again, for AI, it's fine. But if you have competing intents, right, they're going in there, or unspoken and undefined intents, that's where things get tricky because you could do something really well down a certain path, but not actually represent all stakeholders and or all inputs, or it's something that's just not really clearly articulated amongst the various stakeholders.
Yeah, and the intent need to be clearly defined by human.
And
By
sometimes completely contradictory within the same organization, right? I could have my sales
that's
team that
tough.
wants to have conversion and click through be the first one. I could have a marketing division that wants to have banners and headlines that are actually detracting and slowing down the throughput or the click through rates, but is prevalent for brand awareness or some other intent or some other goal. So, it's always a trade off between the elements. And so AI will never kind of be able to like go implement what you want, but knowing what you want or being able to, so like say, I would implement a test to know which one is better and or does one have an impact here or there. That iteration process, yes, can be sped up. But if you're not knowing what you're wanting to iterate on or what the results of the iteration should be, it's not going to quite help you there, right? Then it becomes
Yeah,
a bit messy.
Jason, to that point, I feel like AI or not AI, it's the same in the intent. Building the right thing is the same in any business. I
Correct.
guess with AI, it just, if you have the wrong intent, it shows you a
Yeah.
mistake, your failure faster. I
Yeah.
guess in the startup world, we wanted to fail fast. It
Well,
kind
one
of
of my
helped.
analogies with AI is that, one of the analogies I like is that AI is very much like Excel, right? When Excel first came out, game changing. Why do we need databases anymore? Why do I need, I don't have to ask my DBA questions anymore. Isn't that lovely and
Yeah,
great? And in
yeah.
the future, we won't need those. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't fully replace that requirement, but it does make it more accessible and more addressable. And you can iterate a lot faster with a very powerful tool set. But its intent and its goal isn't initially a full replace. It's a augment and tune just the same as most other tools are. They come in. Now, again, the ability for it is quite high, is obviously very
Yes.
powerful, but so is Excel, I would argue, at the same time.
Exactly. That's great. So what do you think in that sense? What is a popular belief in, kind of the product building world that you think is completely wrong? Like when people think it's right, but common belief, but it's completely wrong.
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of them. The one element I've found is that there's definitely the hype train for where AI will, fire engineers and you can get rid of all of them and then, you can do it. And I see, especially from the product space for folks that, engineering or the tech side is a bit of a black box and then kind of can see the peripherals, but not necessarily like, are in the heart of the car, and replacing parts, effectively. So I've seen it a lot from podcasters and from marketing people. They're, going above and board, but, even just the latest update from Salesforce, they fired, a ton of engineers 4 months ago. They're already now rehiring them all back because they're like, oh, well, actually, we do need someone to know, just steer the ship to a degree. So it's an element where it's, so I think the element of it being, so first off, the fundamental thing is that it shouldn't be called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is just, has been, snake oil salesmen have been using that since like 1880. It's an element where it is machine learning as statistical models, but AI is definitely, much more appealing and sexy, but it's not intelligent. It is, very good at predicting, but not very good at, being.
Yeah, I would say, we are AI native company at what I found is very good at doing repetitive job. It's not very good at solving problems or solving a long-term
Yeah.
problem that requires long-term strategic thinking and implementing.
It's limited by the context that it has access to, right? So if you go into too large of a code base, if you go into too large of a domain knowledge set, that's where it will start losing the thread and losing the point. So it's still good, but it's not across everything. And it's compounded by the other fact too, that, it's my joke about CES, right? Is that there's always the hype cycle plus a fridge. So you can have a smart fridge, an IoT fridge. Now we have an AI fridge, right, this year. So the element is that there's always you always get overloaded with the buzzword. Now with this one, of course, there's something underneath it, just the same as with IoT, same as with all the other trends. Like there's definitely something underneath of it. How big it is, who knows? But there's always going to have a blend of, are you just using the buzzword and you're selling a fridge? Or are you actually leveraging, AI in its true sense and for its actual purpose or are you in the hypothetical end where it has the potential to do something with the potential side?
Exactly. I totally agree with that. It's like in one side, we're really excited about, the AI and, our company was using AI in every aspect. And the other side is like, yeah, it's kind of still have a way to go, in terms of making truly intelligent.
Well, and going back to the point is, there is what is the intent for the AI usage? If it's just to use it and say that you have it there, then that's a marketing feature and not a product feature. You do need to have marketing features. You do need to have your SEO. You need to have your keywords. You need to get into, a Gartner quadrant if you're in the B2B space. Like there's a marketing buzz to say you have it, fine. But at that point, that could be something dumb and who cares? And it's a little button that just takes up real estate space that doesn't do anything. That's fine. But if it's a product feature, right, meaning like an actual end user is going to do it, then it needs to go through the exact same rigor as any other product definition, which is who's the customer, what problem does it solve for them, right? And does this solve their problem correctly? Like one other one I was looking at was they wanted AI leverage and was like, oh, you can ask the bot anything about, the product. I'm like, well, they don't know. Like, like they're not going to help make your UX better, right? They're not going to help make the flows of your workflows better. And if you're asking it how to use your tool, you've already failed because it should be intuitive for the user without needing a chatbot to be able to do it, right? For example. But I was like, but if you could automate X, Y, or Z, that is a very repetitive task or action within your UX, and the AI, and that is your AI, rather than it being something you can talk to and isn't a queue that answers you. That it's the difference between a marketing feature for buzz and a product feature that actually helps you.
Yeah, totally. Here we go to AI centric to AI native product builders talking about AI. At the end of the day, we're building products solving business problems, but need to be solving real problems. And AI is just one of the tools, right? Well, along the line of that, I want to get your unfiltered take on the Henry Ford paradox. So every product leader has this quote at the back of their head. But if I ask people what they want, they would have to say, I want a faster horse. Okay, in the old world, we have time to debate, okay? Maybe, but now the temptation of the AI, the speed of building is so fast. And you can build something so quickly and then you build it. If we build the wrong thing, we can rip it out and we do it later. But now as a product leader, do you face the choice, we just build it and trust your gut, or do you wait for the feedback and sacrifice that speed? Or Jason, in your 19 years of experience, have you found a third option?
Well, I think so. If we kind of unpack that allegory as well as the element, like it's two kind of primary areas that remain unchanged: problem space and solution space, right? So the problem space could be the horse isn't fast enough. That's fine. But the solution space doesn't necessarily mean a car. It just happens to be that was the thing Henry Ford was selling. And so he's like, well, your solution space is the exact same thing that I have. It wasn't a rocket ship or an airplane or anything else, right? So it kind of begs the question or begs even the answer that the solution is car. And it's possible. But the thing is that it's not just also a car with no substance. He actually had cars and was selling them and would demonstrate them and sell them and do a whole marketing of an actual product. So there's definitely an element where, again, going to the AI space, it can help you iterate, go faster and build so you can show something, but it does have to be something that's shown, built, and actually delivered. It has to be prototyped and run through, and that's where AI definitely helps you go there. But you do need to have a problem. One, you have to have a problem space because you can have the best solution in the world, and if everyone's like, well, that's not going to, like if you have a place where you can't drive cars, but it's a forest, I'll take a horse, over, a car going over the fields any day, right? But the
Yeah.
element gets into for that is that you still need to have that solution space. And yes, the solution could fit, but it's also not just going to be Ford. It could be any one of the other options that are alternatives that could have a version or a variation of that solution space. So the big element, like I said, I'm all for building, iterating, going through. But if the builder doesn't have an understanding what the problem space is, then there's no, there's no North Star. There's no guiding point for them to build to. They're going to build something that could be half a boat, half a car, half an airplane, right? And it's just this gobbledygook of parts, but isn't actually solving a problem space, directly. Well, maybe it's solving too many problem spaces, right? Scope is too large. So it's an area where problem space needs to be really clearly defined. And that's the only thing that will help control and navigate to build a solution. So I'm all for leverage AI, iterate, change, throw things away, to get to that solution space. But I don't think the solution space is never a static thing. It's always a fluid.
I guess the more direct question is that would you rely on kind of a visionary leader's vision to build the product, or you incorporate your users' feedback to build a product? Because a lot of people will build, some very strong visionary will build because they know the product so well, the vision so well, they built with their intuition. Because some amazing, people knows how to build great product. And then they will think users' feedback is a noise. The users don't know what they want. And then some people will build because they don't want to build product in a cave. They want to build along the way. So early days and user testing .com, I was early employee. So like, the app that Facebook bought for $1 billion with 11 employees, Instagram. So I was early tester with them. They will test religiously 2 days, 2 runs per day. They would test their wireframe, then they improve the wireframe. They launch it again at 2 p.m. They test it again. They just religiously testing every day, testing every day, improve. And then when they launch officially, they go viral. I was not surprised at all. They have millions and millions of users, and they got acquired by Facebook because they were building alongside with their users. So I can see both camp have great success where you have a visionary leader. They built without the feedback of their users. They have visionary leader. And then on the other camp, you built with the feedback of the users alongside the way. So I guess what kind of a product builder you are?
Yeah, I'm only familiar with the second case, to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen or realized a person who is visionary that built without any user feedback. I mean, even if you want to say like Steve Jobs, who definitely brought some visionary products to market, I don't think that he just went into a cave and came back with the iPhone, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think
there's no way. No.
I think they have the largest user research lab. They actually built a dedicated research team and research office. They have a lot of it. And just I think it's a marketing gimmick where they say,
of course, it's the great, and it's not just tech. It's the great man theory, right? There's a constant thing that someone just out of the blue comes up with something. It's not how people work, for one. It's also not how society or tech works. It's like, 2 people came up with calculus at the same time, right? Isaac Newton and be horrible because I can't remember the guy in Germany, but they both invented calculus at the exact same time. It's not though if we didn't have Isaac Newton, we wouldn't have calculus. We would. It would just be a different name that invented it. There's an area where on there is that unless you're getting user feedback and you're actually solving for it, the visionary can come with the best product in the world, but unless they're going to pay me, a couple $100 million and they're going to be my only customer, that's fine. But we're not. Are we building for the visionary or are we building for the customer? Building for the customer.
Yes.
And how else can you know whether you're solving the need of that customer without?
Right. That's great. I'm glad you're not like this. I actually have a hypothesis. I feel like the entrepreneurs of today are doing less of the feedback collection compared to before. And I think a lot of these people are thinking there's an AI bubble, and this is because people are vibe coding contribute to it. People just build fast and they just don't have patience waiting for the feedback. A second phenomenon that contribute to this bubble is because the cost of a curiosity is unaffordable right now. So just give you some context. Back in the days, usertesting.com, where the company I was with, we are selling $19.99 per test. Anyone can afford. You have a hunch, you test it, you get feedback the same day, you do this. Now, the private equity firm has acquired all the top players, user testing.com, users doing what users do. User interview was acquired last week by user testing.com. That's the last pay-as-you-go vendor in the market. Now, that's the last one is gone. All the top players acquired by private equity firm. Now, in order to test anything, you are prepared for a 30 to 50K enterprise license.
Yeah.
How can anyone do usability testing? You had to pick and choose what you want to test. It's just unbearable. If you are a startup founder, how can you afford to test? Right? So then people's like, I'm vibe coding. I can just build it and rip it and test it. Right now, the quality of the product in the market is a lot, but the quality is shit, I have to say. And that's causes a lot of this AI bubbles, is because you can build AI products in quantities, but not with good feedback. And I put it out there. I think this is why our industry is shit, because of no feedback. We're not solving for the right problem. What do you think? I might be crazy about saying this.
Well, no, I mean, in my view, like, it's fundamental that you need to have feedback for your product, because without it, like, you don't really have a product. And you just have, like I said, there's always a fundamental difference in marketing products and, and actual products. Like, so the element is that, yeah, you need user feedback. That's going to be required. It's challenging. The market availability and access to that user testing is cost prohibitive. But I don't see how AI alleviates that, right? Just because you can build faster, that just means that you can build wrong faster as well as
I
build
think
right.
AI can alleviate it, Jason. Part of the reason Chris and I come back to build an AI version of user testing.com is I want to bring back a more powerful, faster usability testing and bring back the $19 test again. And we can solve it. We can talk about it later. But I'll ask the one last question, in a deep question, and we'll dive into the rapid fire. Yeah. What is the most counterintuitive lesson you learned about building product that user actually love?
So, usually it's just that the element, honestly, is that I just go with the exception that I'm usually wrong from what the customer's wanting most of the time. Because typically the things that I think are the most annoying, or I think is like the most, difficult, or even just throwaway, like, oh, it's cute, but I don't care, it can be seen as super high value, right?
Oh.
And so this is where typically is always like, I will typically put my opinions to the side, because I will I think this is the best thing since sliced bread. This is awesome, and it's completely poo-pooed or just thrown away because they don't, the valuation of it is completely different. So again, from a problem space, like, I can go at it with a solution, but the priority or the importance of that solution isn't my take. That's going to be, the actual end user. And the one element I found that even with all of the major tools that we have, which are awesome, like, you track clicks and track eyeballs and monitoring everything else, actually just watching someone use the tool, and even, even looking over their shoulder, or having them train me on how they're using their tool, completely eye-opening, because most of the time, everything that I think is a priority or think is a useful feature is not, and something that I think is a complete accident even, becomes a very valuable thing.
That's amazing. That's a good take. Like, things we think is not important, but for users' eyes, okay. Oh, great. Amazing. Okay, rapid fire questions. So don't think about it. We'll run through 5 questions quick. What is your current feedback stack you have in terms of surveys, interview, or user testing? What do you use to get feedback today?
That's a good question. It's mostly quiet and off the shelf. So we'll leverage a bit of amplitude, and we'll also shadow. So we operate in retail locations and tourism's, like Natural History Museum and all those. So effectively what I'll do is almost like silent shopper, is I will walk and watch people interact with the systems, as well as we'll use various monitoring tools for clicks and, time on screen and all that. That's primarily because we're B2C versus B2B. And so B2C is over B. So we've done surveys, we've done asks, but typically, like, if you're on vacation or at a museum, for example, like, the last thing you want to do is provide, kind of a filtered opinion, because everyone and their dog is asking you for your opinions while you're kind of going through the attraction. So it's a claim for eyeballs, but effectively, I've effectively found silent shadowing people, whether it's digitally or physically.
Okay, so like a quantitative and a silent shadowing manual. Okay, you guys will benefit a lot of all these.
So, for example, we built like a self-service kiosk, and it's like, okay, where are they getting trouble to? Oh, someone who's very short is having problems here. Someone who's a bit lanky is there. So it's that kind of element, which the digital information won't necessarily always tell you.
Cool. How do you ensure user feedback actually influence your product decision rather than just kind of fly away?
Sorry, on the question as far as like, how do we know, like, how do we know it's like kind of
How do you,
unbiased?
yeah, I guess, how do you use that feedback into building your product?
Oh yeah, it drives everything from prioritization standpoint because I can have marketing
It's
or sales or whoever
important.
have an opinion, but for
Mm-hmm.
me, direct customer feedback has a higher weighted value from feedback response. Now, obviously, it needs to get blended out, and you can have spikes and all that jazz, but within that cohort of external audience members, it has a higher weight than internal weights.
If you have a magic wand, what's one thing you could do to make gathering feedback dramatically easier?
For me, the one element would be being able to watch the person use the tool, right? Directly, like actually looking at their eyeballs, looking at their face. Because the thing is, I firmly believe that people have an emotional response to something and then they think of a rational reason why they're having that emotional response. And seeing that emotional response is huge, right? Because them telling me about it after the fact isn't as useful, even if it's a couple seconds out of the fact. Like that's a delay and it's also biased. And so that element of like seeing someone's like face grimace when they're trying to go through 5 clicks to get a thing, that getting to that emotion is the key thing. Like whether it makes them smile, makes them frown, that's the big piece. And like that's the only that for me would be my magic wand. I want to
And then,
feel their
and then,
emotions while they're
and then they talk about their feelings and why they got stuck and,
because I've had
why
them
they didn't go through,
because yeah, because
yeah.
I've seen someone where they're just like, you know what I mean? It looks like they're about to go into Hulk mode because they're so frustrated. And I'm like, oh, so that seems like it
Yeah.
was really frustrating for you. Oh no, it's fine. It's like this all the time. It's no worries. I'm like, well, that's
Okay.
how your face said,
Oh, yeah, cool. That's interesting. Oh, wow. You are describing our product. Did you check us out before the call?
I know I have not.
Okay. Well, okay, cool. All right. So we go through the rapid fire. Last question. What is the most fulfilling part of leading product engineering?
It's really just it's one building thing, but the I would say it is that customer satisfaction side. Like, and it comes, and for me, like customer satisfaction is someone's not complaining or unhappy, right? Like it should be that like a good product is transparent and should not have any, won't typically have positive feedback, or I don't trust positive feedback. But it's
Okay.
building something where that like there's like, oh, that's really cool, like, and they really like it and they use it constantly, and it makes them smile. Like that part is yeah,
Hello.
it's
That's
really
really
spell.
good. Right, cool. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice when you started in your career, what could that be? The 10 years ago, Jason, when you started in the product field, what would you tell the 19-year ago Jason Kirby?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that you could tell them because it's experience that, helps do it. And you kind of have to, for me, I think you have to kind of go through something to be able to fully know it and learn it. If someone just comes in and tells you, it's not really going to quite resonate. So I don't know.
You
And like,
think yourself wouldn't listen to your older self?
I don't think anybody would listen to themselves, but even if I said, hey, by the way, what you need to do is be very good at statistics and prompting and blah, blah, blah. Like, what would prompting or even vibe coding need if you told someone
Yeah,
that 10 years
totally.
ago, right? Like, there's things that are contextual, but also that they iterate and stack on top of them, and as well as other things that would be completely wrong, right? Which would be like some trend or some vibe I was on, 10 years ago. I was like, oh, that's going to be a dead end. It's not going to go anywhere, right? Like, it's like, there's elements where it's
I guess you might say, hey, Jason, you're going to love what you're doing and you're going to love making customers happy. Just keep doing it.
yeah,
Something
exactly.
like
Keep doing
that.
it would be probably the only thing I'd say is like, yeah, keep at it. But yeah, but I don't think anything would have stopped me or pushed me faster either way.
Cool. Awesome.